Welcome to Sullivan Street for the Shim Sham Show. But first, let's say hi to Chris. Chris, good afternoon.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Eric, and so excited to break down these shows. It's been just really fun to listen to them again. I hadn't. It's been a while, and I'm really excited. That's one of the favorite things about the way we do the show is that I get the excuse to go back and listen to stuff that it's been a long time, and this was particular fun.
Yeah, this was something that I know you, as the live expert, really wanted to talk about. Me, I only had cursory knowledge, but it gave me a chance to get into it. And speaking of people that wanted us to talk about this, one listener emailed us, and he is on the show, Lewis Fowler. Lewis, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, so Lewis will come on. We have a couple things to talk about first, but Lewis is going to come on. One, he has listened to these shows a lot, knows them pretty well, and also knows them well because he attended 3 of the 5 and has some great stories and has actually written as such on Reddit, etc. So we'll talk about that in just a bit. But let's just quickly kick off, Chris, just to do more of a timely wrap up the North American tour. Soon they're done. Then they're going to take a 1 month break, and then they will be heading to Europe for the first time, actually not in too long, since 2022. Although part of me thinks they mostly go there when they release something, and they just happened to release something, 3 years ago. So did you have, I got to see them locally, but I also wanted to ask you if you have any final thoughts about their tour this year, 2025.
Well, two things. There's the I saw them the second time after the last episode that we did, and so I saw them up in Connecticut, and that was a really good show. Uh, the really interesting thing about that was they went into Friend of the Devil, and Adam left the stage and never addressed why he left the stage. But he did was holding onto his stomach a couple times, so I don't know whether he just bathroom problem. It was never addressed. But the band played about 2.5 minutes of Friend of the Devil. And for the first time, which is interesting, right? They play a very arranged version of Friend of the Devil, which of course is a Grateful Dead song. The sort of jam band. It's the first time I've ever actually seen the band jam on Friend of the Devil, which was just sort of an interesting thing to see. And it sounded great. And Dan and Emmy were trading licks and doing some different things. Then they went into Round Here. But again, we're still waiting for Adam, and so they did band did like a 2.5-3 minute sort of jam on the intro of Round Here until finally Adam came out, and Dave just sort of went right into the main intro. Just a really kind of interesting thing that I have never seen before. And if you're looking for tapes to listen to from this tour, that one is sort of an interesting one to grab and give a listen to.
Cool,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
in
Yeah.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. I kept thinking I couldn't think of the name Bridgeport, Connecticut. Weirdly, though, it's the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater which is just a strange thing. But so that was a good show. Good night, Elizabeth, too, which is always great to hear, even if they
Okay.
really should find a different alt to do at some point. And the other thing I just wanted to talk about was some of these versions of Round Here in the last couple weeks with Wristwatch, the MJ Lenderman song, and Raining in Baltimore together, which have been super fun. Did they do that? You saw them a couple weeks
They
ago.
did a very abbreviated rating in Baltimore. So I want to say almost no, like just
But you
mention,
got some Raining in
I
Baltimore.
got a little
That
bit,
counts a
yeah.
little bit.
I'm one of the only ones I think that recognized it, even though I'm sure a lot of people had that album. Yeah, it was interesting. I saw him at the Yamava Theater in Highland, which is kind of San Bernardino. Yeah, another casino show. It's local to me, so of course I'll go. Yeah, a couple. I mean, definitely some highlights. I know this is kind of timely, but first of all, the big thing was Chris has been bothering me for years to get into Gaslight Anthem. I wanted to get into them. I got there early. I had extra coffee. They did not play because about, I guess, 45 minutes before they were due to come on, the singer got in a fight with what was the lead singer's name? Why am I forgetting? Of
Brian
Gaslight.
Fallon.
Brian Fallon, yeah.
Security.
Got in a fight with their security, I guess, ostensibly because he wanted his daughter backstage, and they said absolutely not. Nobody under 21. If you're curious, I just saw somebody uploaded Adam's explanation on YouTube, and it already has like thousands of views. Anyway, I don't have too much to say about it. I'm glad they played Crows because it sounded like they at least flirted with the idea of not playing, or when they were confronted about it, thought, oh, is that an option? So highlight to me, well, no. So I wanted to see them this year to hear that they're basically playing all 5 songs, at least 4 of them. Guess what? The night I went, they only played 3. I think partly because of this issue. So they did not play Aurora, which they've been playing in almost every show. They've skipped a couple, and Boxcars they skipped. So in the first 7 songs, I got to hear, Spaceman, Virginia, and With Love. I love them. He always. I shouldn't say that because I know he gets in along December. Generally, Adam has more fun singing either new songs or songs that he doesn't have to quote unquote play every night, which makes sense. That makes sense. He loves these songs and they're great. So I thought they were great. It was so interesting hearing the crowd around and talking to people, even with. One thing I'm starting to realize, again, it's partly our age, and I know I would maybe be the same way about other bands that I used to love, like, I don't know, Dave Matthews or something that I don't really keep in touch with anymore or follow. But there are people there that see them 10, 20 times and wear their shirts, do not have the new album. Some ways don't even know some of the B-sides, even in the album. Or no, I shouldn't say B-sides, right? But you know what I mean?
Like the deeper cuts on the album.
Yeah, like, guys, oh, I couldn't believe they didn't play Miami. That's my favorite song. And I'm like, geez, they play that every time. I'm glad they kind of took a break. So that was really interesting to me. For me, the highlight, so at casino shows, I was saying, now that I've been to a couple, I find that the crowd is a mix of older and younger. Yeah, I think like almost older than me, and also maybe some younger, that just because of their casino, and they surprisingly less drunk, I think, than like the amphitheater shows, right? Where people maybe go, let's split a bottle of wine in the grass or something like that. And here, maybe they whatever because they're traveling and whatever. Maybe they've had 1 drink or 2, but not drunk. More of like a sitting in theater, very polite, not a lot of like cell phone talk. Because Zephyr got a hold of me for the next show in LA, and he said it was great, but he said that he thought the crowd was just too much talking between songs, not really paying attention on their phone. He almost called it typical LA behavior. I saw none of that where I was. If anything, people just didn't even. In fact, the really hardcore fans really stand out. I'm like, okay, those 5 people have the new album. The other 700 people I can see don't have it. Mrs. Potter's was a highlight. I hadn't seen that in years, and I love it. And of course, some of that now that we know from David Lowery, some of that. The 4th verse references an area near
Pioneer Town.
Pioneer Town.
And the Joshua Tree.
Yeah, up by Joshua Tree. So that's not far from where the casino is. So so that was great. They didn't have the High Life T-shirt yet. For those that haven't. And by the way, Lewis, they have new T-shirts, and not only do they have like a Crown and Crow's High Life one, which I said I want to get because it looks cool. Although people are going to think I'm advocating for pot. Universal pot usage or something. And then the other thing that
you live in California though, so you don't need to advocate.
Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing. But they might think that's why I have the shirt. Is what I'm getting at. Not just because I'm a diehard Crows fan. But then this is the best. So I think I'm like, oh, I host the Counting Crows podcast. I know everything. They have another T-shirt, and I did not get the reference. Did you see that?
Oh, it's the all my friends flowers in their eyes.
Yes,
all my friends have flowers in their eyes.
I don't know why. Again, maybe I'm just getting old. At first, I'm like, what is that? There's like flowers in the eye, which is also High Life. Because I got none. So anyway, I thought that was cool.
It's High Life. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
I was going to say real quick about the casino shows. One of my favorite versions of Mrs. Potter is from an Atlantic City show. And in the middle, Adam does this whole kind of interlude where he's talking about the decline of Atlantic City, and he ties it back to Pioneer Town, and somewhere in the Joshua Tree, there's this town still standing, the Pioneer Town, and goes back into the song. It's a pretty great version, and it's
that's fantastic.
They used to play Atlantic City a lot for some. I feel like there was some reason. There was a couple of years there where they played it a bunch. I do just want to call it again. It just the wristwatch thing. There's a decent number of versions. The one from San Diego is up, and I thought that was very good. So that was that and Rating in Baltimore. But Adam, so I'm not a huge. I've listened to a little bit of MJ Lenderman. I guess maybe I don't get it quite yet. But some of the lyrics in that song are so great. Adam singing "I've got a houseboat docked at the Himbo Dome" is one of the great line reads of all time. He says so plaintively, "I've got a houseboat docked at the I don't even want to spoil it for and try to like everyone who's listening, if you haven't heard him do this, go find that, and um it's a good one. Also, as someone who spends a lot of time in Buffalo because my wife's family there, because the singer in that song, much like sort of around here or Raining in Baltimore, which they've sort of connected to, is sort of like, kind of plaintive and kind of sad, but they're sort of humble bragging, right? And I've got a beach house up in Buffalo, I can confirm, is a very sad brag. So I love Buffalo, but got a beach house in Buffalo. That's not,
not the same.
Not quite the same.
That was the song that I heard from MJ that gravitated me towards his music. I have to say, it was the lyrics as well. I felt Wristwatch really captured me and sort of was my introduction into his music.
Yeah, I feel like I've got to go deeper with him. Because the second thing, Down Under Wristwatch, was a really beautiful cover of the Magnolia Electrico song "Just Be Simple." So I'm like, maybe I just got my ears hearing Adam, and I'm like, I got to hear the rest of the stuff. I don't know.
He did say, I'm about wrapped up. He did mention, so he played Blues Run the Game, which they play a lot, but they are frequently. But he said that was a last minute addition. He said something like, Emmy just told me we should play Blues Run the Game. So I don't know if that's subbed out for something like Boxcars, or they just want to do, because Emmy took some time to tune up before that song, so the guitar was not ready for it. The last thing I want to say about the show was in the first half, which I guess is less of the song, less of the hits. So Spaceman, Potters, Virginia, maybe Manual. I think Manual too. I can't remember. Love from A to Z, Colorblind. I know that's a hit. And Michelangelo and Blues Run the Game. I thought Adam's performance on those 8 songs were some of the best I've ever heard. I almost think it tested him a little bit and his voice, and he had to play YouTube the next day. And I think when he got into the hits, he didn't challenge, last 7 songs didn't challenge himself that much, but which I understood, because I couldn't believe, again, I've seen Colorblind so much. I was like, this is maybe his best performance of Colorblind, and I've seen it, 18 times or something. So, So anyway, that's a wrap, and we'll check in after the end of the European tour to see if there's any interesting additions or subtractions to that, to those shows.
Yeah.
So,
but speaking of shows that are the opposite of casino shows, and also definitely featured Blues Run the Game and many other covers.
Yes. Good transition to Blues Run the Game. The Shim Sham Shows. And I'll just preface it a little. I know less, than the two of you. Anyway. So the Shim Sham Shows are 5 shows, which I kept forgetting. Started in 99. So it was 99, 00, 01, 02, 03. And so all right, because the club was called the Shim Sham Club, right? And it was owned, because it's funny. When I was researching this, they interviewed, which we were trying to get a hold of him, but the owner is actually a LA native. I don't know how he ended up owning that club, or I'm guessing he might have had some connection to Adam and the gang, because how did this all get set up? Maybe you'll have some insight there. He doesn't live there anymore. He's back in LA. He owns speaking of high life, owns a 420 friendly hotel. I know it's pseudo legal, I guess, but they don't want kids there because of it in Idlewild. But that's one of the themes of the hotel out here. And I remember, Chris, I found out that ironically he became pseudo famous, and I didn't follow this, because he was featured in the Amber Heard trial with Johnny Depp. He gave testimony. I don't know anything about it. I didn't look into it, but that was the man who organized some of these Shim Sham shows.
The club is still there, by the way. I believe it's called One-Eyed Jacks now.
Yes, and I was going to say that because I went in.
One-Eyed Jacks is gone, actually.
Yeah, actually, right. It just closed 2 years ago. It just closed a couple years ago. But I actually went there, and again, I was a Crows fan, but I love so many other bands, and it's weird thinking this, because when you're in your 20s, 1 year seems like, you know what I mean, right? Like 1 year is a long time, where now the years keep, flipping by. But I actually was at the One-Eyed Jacks, which was Shim Sham. My friend took me in 04, just 1 year later. And somehow he already knew that because he was a Crows fan. He said, yeah, the Shim Sham show as we know it is done. Okay.
It's now Toulouse Theater, which is owned by Ben Jaffe from Preservation Hall Jazz Band.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Morgan Higbee was the name of the owner of Shim Sham. So we're going to talk about the recordings. All the recordings are on YouTube for the audio. The video on YouTube is only available for $99, the first one, which was interesting.
Which took forever to come out, by the way. I actually recall when someone finally dropped that on Crowstown. God, maybe it was a decade after, something like that. But yeah, that was for a long time. The one we didn't have was 99.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to jump in, but like, that one came out way later. And my understanding is that was Morgan, the owner, had set up a VHS camcorder on a tripod and just hit record in 99. And that's what that is. It's just his home recording that Adam okayed on a tripod of the 99 show.
Can you, this was something I should have asked in the pre-show, but was it in 03 or one of the later ones, Emmy comes out and says, "Oh, welcome to the Devil and the Bunny show."
Yeah.
Now, is that exact? Didn't they do other shows that were Devil and the Bunny, and then also not all of these were Devil and the Bunny? Could you clarify that for people?
I mean, my understanding is that they were putting these things up under sort of pseudonyms and secret names, but the Devil and the Bunny seems to kind of be a reoccurring theme. And my understanding of it is simply that Adam had a bunny suit that he used to wear every single Halloween. And I think Emmy often would dress as a devil, and that was just kind of their go-to Halloween costumes. And so then when they started doing these duos, they decided to just call it that in homage to their Halloween outfits. And I think those Halloween outfits have later made appearances. I believe, Chris, you might know better, like 99 Boston and something like that. Yeah.
There's Boston one. I saw Adam, but with Dave Bryson, but with Adam in the bunny suit on a Halloween in 08.
And Howard Stern, famously.
The Howard Stern thing. But Adam, and Adam, he's the holiday in Spain, right? He's an engine driver in a bunny suit. But yeah, that's the Devil and the Bunny is literally just, I think they did a radio show that was called that at some point.
Yeah, I kind of remember.
And they'd be like, who is the devil and who is the bunny? And it's like, well, it's pretty obvious, actually, guys. There's pictures. If one of you is the devil and one is the bunny. But
I guess I just wasn't sure. Like when he said that, I was like, are they wearing those costumes this time? I think no, right?
I don't think so.
No.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
They did. I have it here. It's funny. 2000, they called it publicly the Devil and the Bunny Show.
Okay.
2001, they called it the Amnesia Show. And in 2002, they called it a Uriah Heep tribute band, which I believe is like a 70s band that Emmy's a big fan of.
Oh, okay. So I'll let you guys, or one of you, maybe Chris, and then Lewis can try. I have thoughts on every a show, but I'll let Chris. I'll let you lead the way. We can talk about all 5 shows overall.
Yeah, but let's talk about. I just want to maybe set the stage for people, right? So the Shim Sham Club, right? It's a small club in New Orleans. My understanding is all of these shows were both the week of Jazzfest and very late at night to varying degrees.
Yes.
So I just want you to maybe just kind of like set the picture for us. Like, what's the club like? What's the energy like? Like, what's the vibe of the shows?
Sure.
Before we talk about the specifics of them. But
I mean, again, you've got to like put yourself back in that time period too. It's like sort of I'm not going to say the advent of the internet, but it's early internet days. Mm-hmm. And as you guys have mentioned on previous episodes, like back then, AnnaBegins.com, the fan site run by Lisa, was like everyone's sort of like gateway into the tape trading community and also just sort of news about the band. And one night in college, I went to school in Mississippi State in North Mississippi. I grew up 90 miles from New Orleans. And one night a post comes up. Hey, I mean, I don't know exactly what the lingo was, but something like, secret show, New Orleans this weekend. Keep it quiet. Adam and some friends, something like that. And so we get in the car and drive 4.5 hours to New Orleans that Friday night or whatever night it was, me and a bunch of friends, not really knowing if this was real or not. Like not really knowing was this a fake post or is he going to show or is it going to back it? Like we don't know what we're going to. And we get there. I remember it was daylight, so it was not super late. And I get to this club and there were some fans. There were like people who clearly knew what was going on. They'd seen the same post. The club is, I mean, I'm terrible with like numbers of people, but we're talking 100 people, 200 people. I mean, it's quite small, has a balcony, but the balcony was closed off if I remember correctly. And I mean, the Shim Sham was a great club. Like, by the way, like Morgan ran it. My understanding is his ties were like they did a lot of punk shows there. The Cramps used to come and play there a bunch. I think there was a lot of burlesque type shows. So it was not necessarily what you would have thought of as Counting Crows fan type club. But if you know Adam and his ties to LA and his ties to the Viper Room and all that kind of stuff, it was sort of in that same scene, I think. Which I think is he must have known Morgan from LA in some way before Morgan went to New Orleans to open this, I think.
That would make sense, right? Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I get there and, I brought like this mini disc tape recorder and a microphone that I used to travel with to shows and was like, well, I'll see what this is. Like, the 99 show was not out. Like, we didn't know what this was. Like, for all I knew, it was a Counting Crows show. I think I met Morgan, the owner, briefly and was like, hey, and I introduced myself and said, I'd like to tape the show. And he was like, and he like had that look of a club owner who was quite busy and that this was not exactly what he wanted to be dealing with at the moment. And right around the time a cab pulls up and Adam and Emmy get out and Emmy's like pulling his acoustic guitar out of the back of the cab. It was such a kind of rock and roll moment of them just like rolling up in a cab and like everyone's just kind of standing there looking. And I think I just went right up to Adam and I was just like, hey, and I introduced myself and I was like, I brought this thing to record tonight if you're cool with it. And he's like, man, I don't know. Like, that's not kind of what this vibe is. I don't know. Let me think about it. And like, he kind of like brushes me off and I'm like, no problem. Cool. Whatever, And then we were there quite early. And so my memory is that we had like 3 or 4 hours to kill. We were just kind of sitting around. Maybe we went for a walk. Maybe we went and grabbed a bite to eat. I don't really remember. And
I'm only going to interrupt this by saying that I didn't go, but my one friend did go to that show, and he just said the exact same thing was you, that everyone was there, or at least a lot of people were there, maybe the 100. I think he might have been with you, and you guys were all having a drink, and then they came in, and then you had a couple hours to kill. And so he said, he went out to dinner and came back to the show.
Yeah, it was like a lot of time to kill. I come back to the show, and at some point before the show, Morgan, the owner, comes up to me and goes, hey, Adam said you can record. And I was like, all right, cool, no problem. And I was saying earlier before we were recording, I went down into my basement looking through some old things. I actually found the old mini disc recorder that I used for this thing. I don't even know if this thing still works, but I used to record with this Sony mini disc Walkman and like a cheap microphone I bought from Radio Shack back in the day. And that was how I recorded shows. And it was not the professional rig that certain like jam band tapers used to really use. This was like really my sort of down and dirty way of recording shows. And I remember going into the club and being like, this is going to be loud because it's a club, it's a bar, it's packed. And there were these like risers over on the left side, just like 1 or 2 steps. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go stand stage left so that I'm kind of above the crowd a little bit. And I had to sit there and like hold the microphone the entire show. Like I'm just sitting there like old school style, holding this microphone. And that's the 2000 show. And just to close the loop on all that, I record the show. We have a great time. We pack up, we leave, I go home. And a few weeks or maybe a month or so later, I get this email from Lisa from Anna Begins. And she's like, hey, Adam was wondering if he could get a copy of the show. I'm like, yeah, it's his. So sure, no problem. And I don't know. I mean, again, this was before you could download shows. This was the early tape trading or CD-ROM days. I don't even think I had the capabilities of getting these mini disc off. So I ended up having to like send these to some other taper who said, I can rip these for you and I'll send them back on like data disk. And then I cloned those and I sent those to Adam or something. I don't really remember, but it wasn't as straightforward as, a WeTransfer link or whatever, or a BitTorrent.
And Lisa knew that you were recording because you met her there and she saw you recording? Is that what
No, Lisa came to a later show. I think that Adam said to her, hey, there was some guy there. Can you find him? And I had put on maybe, I don't even remember if Anna Begins had like a message board, but I'm sure I posted somewhere like, hey, I was there, I recorded it, or hey, here's the set list. Like I was, if I would go to these shows, particularly a show like that was that special, like I would maybe like put a report up just so people knew kind of what was going on. And he probably saw it and had her like fish me out.
So the ones that were uploaded on YouTube by Barely Out of Tuesday, the 01 and 02s, are they all yours?
Yeah, so 2000, 2001, and 2002. So
okay.
99.
I wasn't entirely clear because there could be multiple recorders or whatever, but okay, great.
Yeah. So 99 was the VHS that Morgan set up. I did 2000, 2001, and 2002. And then I had left the South and was living in New York by 03, and that one's not mine.
Yeah, and part of it, for those who weren't around at this time, like these were kind of grail tapes, and one of the biggest things that got like traded on places like Anna Begins and Hummingbird's Nest and stuff like that, because I think it's so much interesting material, right? And for just generally, right? It's Adam, generally speaking, Adam and Emmy and some friends, often Andre Carter on trumpet, which is some of the best stuff in my opinion. Playing either very stripped down versions of Counting Crows songs or a lot of covers, like a wild array of covers. Some of them which are very like, ones the band has ended up doing a lot, and other ones that are just totally off the wall, batshit kind of like wild stuff. And so these are the tape. I mean, because everyone, you'd get a couple of tapes and you have this, and obviously, again, if you get the sickness, you want more and more and more. But like these were sort of the obvious ones to get because you weren't gonna find another tape that had Adam and Emmy doing "I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones" twice.
That's right.
So these were like, these were cool, and it is really, honestly, Lewis, we've probably talked on message boards before, but it is like the fact that you tape these things is such a great thing because like, can you fucking imagine if these things hadn't gotten recorded for posterity? It would be such a shame.
And I'm telling you, if Adam had said no, they would not have been. Like I put it in his court and was just like, I'm here, I can do it if you want. And he gave it some serious thought, I guess, and which rightfully so. Like these are drunken, like I look back on these knowing now what I know about the band, and I think you hear about, what do they call it, the cock house or whatever, the house where he lived in L.A. with all his bandmates and friends that would come through town. And I'm like, the number of times they must like have late night sat around and done these stupid like Madonna cover or like the America cover, just for fun. And like this was like a performance of that. This was a glimpse into that, and also to your point about like Andre Carter and some of the other musical guests that he would bring along, like, we now know so much more about the band and his love of music through interviews and podcasts and his podcast that he did with James and all of that kind of stuff. But back then, like, you kind of knew what he posted on like the AOL message board and that kind of thing. And you obviously knew that he cared a lot about music based on the opening bands that he would take on tour with him and how he would talk in interviews about them. But these shows really, I think, sort of opened my eyes and then a lot of fans' eyes up to his love of all kinds of music. And this first show, the 2001, having Jules Shear there with the girls from the Continental Drifters and like just being like, hey, I'm in New Orleans. I'm friends with musicians. They're going to come and do some stuff. They're going to actually play their songs. I'm going to step off stage. Like, it was so cool. Like, it was just very, very interesting to watch him sort of orchestrate that whole thing. It was almost like a precursor to like the to what he now does with the music festival or with the traveling circus. It was almost like his way of bringing, on a much smaller scale.
Yeah, it is. I do think, especially the festival, like this is sort of the genesis of, the idea of like, we're going to be in clubs and we're going to be able to do these things that we couldn't do on a big stage.
That's right.
And he's, and also like, Luce is not speaking out of turn about the drinking because like Adam, like if you listen to these tapes multiple times, he's like, I'm so drunk right now. They are mixing drinks on stage. Like this is not, they are having a great time. It's clear everyone's having a great. Was the crowd having as good a time as the band? Like the part I'm curious too, like, is the crowd just sort of like amped or like, is the crowd loose too? Or
yeah, I mean, I think so. I have to say that when you're taping, you sometimes kind of have your eye on the tape and the levels and kind of that. You're almost working, and then the other part of your brain is going, hey, don't forget you're at a show. Like, why don't you enjoy yourself and like pay attention to the show? And so the thing that gets kind of left out is paying attention to the crowd. I remember 2000, the first one, being really fun, really loud. I think in the recording you could hear Adam telling people to like quiet down for the quieter songs, like quite a lot. And then I think in 01, he says something like, you know, we let too many people know about it last year, so we like kept this one more secret or something like that. So he was constantly trying, kind of playing with how much do we advertise this versus like no one came in 99, too many people came in 2000. 2001 maybe was the sweet spot. 2002, the whole band is playing Jazzfest, so they're all there. So they play with the full band. But yeah, I mean, it was like going to like your like a Bowery Ballroom, even smaller, really, like almost like Bowery Electric, and just seeing them do like, you know, these acoustic numbers with Emmy and then a bunch of friends.
Yeah, I got to think about one of the comments both of you hinted at, which is about the covers. Now, we'll talk about each show, but in general, about 50% of the songs were covers and 50% were Crow songs or different interpretations of Crow songs. And then, of course, a lot of those covers ended up on albums, and even they mentioned that on one of them, right? Because they recorded covers twice, right? They recorded them after Hard Candy, and then recorded them for. So some of me goes, "Oh, we were just recording this, so you know it's fresh." But one thing I was really thinking, maybe it just depends on the song, is that it seems to me there were a lot of songs that they only played for this or these shows that
Sure.
would have required some practice and you know, that's interesting. I mean, I just joke that, you know, I mean, even Adam kind of joked recently, like, oh, I don't play Amy Hit the Atmosphere because I'd have to relearn the piano parts and I'm too lazy. He was kind of, you know, making a joke about it. And then I'm thinking, geez, when you're younger and I mean, we're all like this, and maybe they practice a lot just to play one cover song one time.
Well, it's the thing of living with musicians, though, too. I think because he's, you know, it's like Andre Carter who lived with him in L.A. I think Amy lived with him at that time. Gibbs for sure. Yeah. Gibbs literally wrote that movie Freeloaders. That's actually part of the other interesting too. I think it's 03 where Adam's talking about like, oh yeah, I moved out of this house. We're gonna get hanging out. We're hanging out less. And like of course, it's when Adam moved to New York, but it's also like literally the plot of that movie that Gibbs wrote, Freeloaders. That's about all of these people who'd been living for free in Adam's house and had to leave. But they're just all, I imagine they're just kind of all like hanging out and being like, oh, it'd be fun to play this song. And they probably got great gear just laying around the house, right? Like,
I've had this thought, you know, in hindsight, but like, I really do think besides these Shim Sham shows being sort of having their place in the tape community of the Counting Crows history, they also serve sort of this other bridge, I think, between This Desert Life and them recording that album with the Cracker guys. And they've talked in interviews about how loose and fun and offbeat that recording session was. And the aftermath of that, of Adam living in this house and having his friends coming through town and then them gearing up for Hard Candy and wanting to record some covers. And then you tie this was really the precursor for Underwater Sunshine, the covers album. Like almost every single song on that album was played at a Shim Sham show, I think. And then to take it one step further, I actually also really feel like Somewhere Under Wonderland is, even though that's like a reference to his home in LA and it has a lot of LA references, it's very much a New Orleans album. It's got a ton of New Orleans references. And he's talked about how he allowed himself to lyrically write differently for that album. And I think there's a direct tie back to these Shim Sham shows. Like, I think a song like Earthquake Driver or the Elvis song like feels very much like something you would have heard in a cover of one of these other songs, or actually like I always, whenever I hear Cover Up the Sun, I immediately think of Crossing Muddy Waters, like as like a, you know, not like a cover, but just as a reference to that song.
I thought the exact same thing. He loves those that. I even had a comment about Muddy Waters because it's not my favorite song, but I thought he did a great job, and exactly what you said reminds me of Cover Up the Sun, and whatever that genre is, he loves it. like
Oh
that.
yeah, he's country. I mean
That
that's a
kind of
cover. And
wanderlust country. Yeah.
Adam loves country, and so many of those. I mean, and again, like, I'm a huge Counting Crows fan. I have been for a long time. But one of the things I like about them even more so than their own music, is just sort of all the music I've discovered from Adam and listening to him talk about bands and stuff. I mean, I remember being at these shows and hearing like Townes Van Zandt and being like, I got to check that out. What's that? Or even like Big Star and stuff like that. Like, I wasn't cool enough to necessarily know at 20 what some of these songs were or who some of these artists were. And so a lot of these shows turned me on to like the stuff that I listen to exclusively now in my, adult life. And they all kind of tie back to these shows and Adam's promotion of this type of music.
Okay.
Yeah, it covers a lot. It's a lot of ground, and part of it, I think, that's interesting is you kind of get, to your point, like these different pieces of their music. You can see all these things filtered through there, and the sort of the more pop rock type of stuff, the country things, the sort of really devastating, like in country. I mean, like the versions of like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, which is just like beautiful. I mean, it's like Adam really like emoting and really kind of slow versions of these songs, letting the stuff come out. It's like there's a lot of different angles on the band, but at the same time also playing like Oasis songs, just sort of like full revved up like acoustic guitar, and that's also great.
Yeah,
It's a
so a
really
precursor to him doing the "Live Forever" intro Long December later in his live shows. I mean, so much stuff from these Shim Sham shows would come out in their tours even the year after, like just little nuggets.
yeah, and that's a part of the interesting thing, and it is for worth context for people going back, is that again a lot of this stuff hadn't been part of the sort of band lexicon at the time, and part of what put it into it, like the first time I heard Adam singing Pale Blue Eyes was definitely the version from the Shim Sham show, which of course they now sing like exclusively in the middle of Goodnight Elizabeth. But like that's I didn't know what that song was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is fantastic. What is
Mm-hmm.
this? Well, again, probably like 20 or something when I heard that. I was like, I wasn't cool enough to be listening to the Velvet Underground, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, she
Um,
doesn't exist. That became a all in around here off and on for quite some time. First time I ever heard that was the 2000 Shim Sham show. Robin Hitchcock cover.
yeah, and it's actually it's interesting in time, right? Because I think the really well known version of that is I think Pink Pop in 2000, which would have been like a month after this. There's a
Right.
lot of stuff like you can trace history from these shows to Adam going, "Oh, I'm going to drop this in," and then it become like again like a really obvious part where someone who's listening to this now who's getting into this today would go like, oh yeah, they're playing these songs like no, this was not a common thing that they did back then. Yeah, should we try to hit the show? I guess the
Yeah, let's yeah, we can go, and even if we only have a little commentary, I can just preference a preface. Sorry, each of the shows. So the first one in '99, as I said, and as Lewis said, maybe not so well attended, a little too secret. Yeah, May '99. So this was almost exactly 5 months before this Desert Life was released.
yeah, you
Adam,
can really feel the fact that they've been hanging out with David Lowery.
yes, yes,
Because there's
yes,
just
yes.
a ton of like they're like, hey, we're gonna do another Cracker cover. There's like at least 3 or 4 of them in there.
Yeah, there's a bunch, and for partly because I want to motivate people to go back to listen to the tapes. We'll talk about the covers, but I'll just quickly mention not how they perform, but the names of either the Crows songs or the ones that ended up, like Lewis said, on Underwater Sunshine or some albums. So Jumpin' Jesus, Rain King, Catapult, 4 Days in Mrs. Potter's, both of them the live premiere. Mr. Jones, Horse Streamers, Long December, Goodnight Elizabeth, and Round Here. I mean, talk about a mix of the 3 hits with 3 B-sides, yeah, Horse Streamers. But anyway, I'll turn to you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think the Goodnight Elizabeth. I'm looking at it now. He got about a minute and 42 into it and said, "I'm too drunk. We're not playing this anymore."
and then it's funny because he keeps referencing that in the other tapes when he goes to play. Like, we tried this a couple years ago and I was way too drunk and we couldn't do it. But this tonight I'm going to do it. And he does get through the song in the other versions.
That's right.
I think my favorite thing from this one is Horse Dreamers in a Long December with the horns, which I think are really nice. This is kind of, as you mentioned, right? This tape is just off a tripod, and so the audio is not great, and I think that kind of holds it back a little bit. It also just kind of feels like they are just kind of figuring out the format. In terms of like things that again, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, I think is really cool. Always on My Mind is a great song, and I think Adam singing it it's a really nice take on it. But this one is less. I don't have as much on this one. It's in the Mrs. Potter's version, the version of Mrs. Potter's that's kind of like more like a country hootenanny is kind of.
Oh, he's pretty drunk on that one too. You could tell he's having a great time with the Pioneer Town Bar, line. So a sax player comes out. I think they said his name's Will. I didn't catch or look into it. And he played in a couple songs with Andre Carter. Have in the other shows, and again, because I didn't look at him or listen as deep as you guys did, like have they ever had a sax player out except for this 1999 Shim Sham Club show? I don't think so.
I mean, I think didn't they used to have a sax player come out on the Traveling Circus tour that played in the Michael Franti band, and he would come out and play some songs, I believe.
Yeah, he played, but I think that's guys from. I don't know if that's the same. I don't think it's the same guy.
I don't know who that was in '99.
But they did have a sax player, yeah. Well, the one thing that cracked me up, and again, I was just trying to start getting into this a couple weeks ago, and I don't think they announced who they were, if they did, because the recording was so bad. And so the thing, this just made me laugh on the YouTube video. So when 4 Days starts, right, the new song, two women come on stage, but I don't think he introduced them. Now it ends up one of them's right. Are they both musicians, or one of them is a major musician? Do you know what I'm talking about? Go watch it 4 Days, because she plays guitar later. But when 4 Days starts, it's just that these women come on stage, like hug Adam. One's wearing a dress, one's wearing short, and then they kind of move the tambourine around and sing. And literally, I thought they were audience members, or both girlfriends of Adam's that he just invited on stage to join 4 Days. Well, it ends up, not, because they did a lot more in later songs, but it just made me laugh a little bit.
It's anyway. That loose feeling. That's how loose it is, that you're like, I think people may have just wandered on stage.
Yeah, and I thought he was like, hey, go for it. Okay, so that's the 2000 show, as you said, a couple, reference to. By the way, we'll talk about it later. I love Jumping Jesus now. It's something that I just got into the last couple months, and that whole sorted. I mean, Lewis, you talked about getting into old albums. I've been listening to that Sorted Humor album, but I'll talk about that another time. So now we get to 2000, which was the first one, also in May, like you said, during Jazzfest. The first one, and that was such a big deal, by the way, for our generation. I mean, I had people from Syracuse that were driving down to Jazzfest, to go there. So in this one, by the way, in most of these shows, they play about 20 songs. One of them had longer because they had guests. In my mind, when I had heard of Shim Sham, is that they were playing for 6 hours or 7, it wasn't. It was fairly.
They're still long. I mean, for the 2000 show, what time does it start and roughly when does it end? I'm not.
Oh my God!
Expecting you to remember exactly.
My memory, holy cow! I don't know. I feel like it probably started around 10:30 or 11. I don't think they started quite as late as Adam would like to say they did, but they would be quite late. I do have a story about being out late with Adam, not with Adam, but in the 01 Shim Sham. But yeah, I mean, they'd start 10:30, 11, probably go till about 1:30 or 2. I mean, I think I drove back to college 1 or 2 times after one of these shows. They were such a blur when it comes to how I got there, who was there. I've had friends later in life be like, hey, remember that time you took me to that Secret County Crow show in New Orleans? That was so much fun. And I'll be like, you went to that with me? I don't know. there was some drinking going on as well. So,
So in the 2000 show, also about half Crow's songs, and a bit different on these ones. Wish I Was a Girl, Catapult, Sullivan Street, Mr. Jones, Closer to You, Horse Dreamers Again, and then we got Long December, Goodnight Elizabeth, and Rain King. And then we can talk about the covers. But can you clarify, Chris? I should know this before. Closer to You is a Crow song. Was it played in addition to? Was it ever played outside of this show?
I don't believe it was ever played outside of this, and it is. I had not thought about this song in forever. In terms of recommendations, that song, particularly that version with Andre Carter playing trumpet, is so fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I mean,
Okay.
of all the lost songs that fans like talk about and pine for, it's funny that this one doesn't get more
Right. That's true.
attention, which is totally fine. You know,
No, but it's fair because, like, look, Einstein is fine, and I kind of get Adam's. It's a perfectly fine song, and it's interesting. Closer to You is really good, and I would love to hear a full, proper Crows version
I
to
also
whatever
find,
exists of that. I would love to hear that.
I also find it weird that people pine for Einstein so much when there is a studio recording. I'm like, you have it. What is it you want?
Yeah, I agree with that. That actually, that's what I always said. I want to hear them record some of the demo stuff
Yeah.
and quote unquote fix it up, like Adam says.
I mean,
Um,
of all the hidden gems, like when they released August and everything after, I thought, well, that there goes everything. I mean, that was everything. Like we just knew of this magical song that existed, and suddenly he put it out with a full orchestra, and I was like, that's pretty special.
as you said, Chris, also a lot of Cracker covers in here, and Robin Hitchcock, who Adam says is one of his major influences. So yeah. By the way, I got to
Yeah.
thinking, Chris, that there was. I mean, I know he was being funny, but there was one time that Adam was interviewed. I think during the first Butter Miracle release, and someone's like, "What do you say to all those diehard Crows fans?" And he jokes, he goes, "Oh, tell them to get a life, like get other hobbies." Which is kind of true. I understand, but from his perspective. But then I also laugh because he is such a music nerd that is obsessed with certain artists. And that's why he did a whole podcast on, and did 5 episodes on Prince or something. So I could also say that to Adam. But
What does he say? He says something similar at the start of this show. He comes out and he's like, "This is not a." I was just listening to it in preparation for this. He's like, "This is not a kind of crow show, so you guys can all like get over yourself." Like that's how it starts, or something like that.
This is, and so again, this is Lewis's tape. So this audience is a great audience tape. It's much better than 99. Like, it's so much that was like immediate, instantaneous. I was like, oh, this is okay. Now I can. I was a little worried listening to 99. I'm like, oh man, have I totally misremembered how enjoyable it was to listen to these shows? I was like, no, I hadn't
Yeah.
gotten to 2000 yet. I really love this version of Sullivan Street. Is amazing. I think that version is spectacular with the horns, and it's really fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree. Yeah.
I'm just looking over the set list. Like I love some. I mean, Closer to You, I think is great. I love For the Sake of the Song. I remember him asking everyone to be quiet and singing that Towns Van Zandt song and being blown away by that.
I love that he asks for quiet and gets it in that he's
Yeah.
like, can you be quiet? And everyone's like, okay.
Yeah. I actually really like the Jules Shear stuff that is in this show. Like, I didn't know who that was. Adam brings him out. Like, again, this is like Adam supporting his friends and bringing out, introducing his fans to new music. And I still, to this day now, will put Jules Shear on from time to time and listen to some of these songs. What does he sing? Like, The More That I'm Around You, I'm in Love with You, and Restaurant Scene. And it's performed with and if she knew what she wants, which is the Bangles song. It's performed with the Continental Drifters, which are
one of whom was in the Bangles.
Right, two. Vicky Peterson and Susan Cowsill. I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. Vicky Peterson was in the Bangles. Susan Cowsill was not. But yeah, which is why they do that Bangles cover. And Jules Shear was in a band with Amy Mann. Weirdly enough, that I'm blanking on the name of that band, but I can look it up later.
Like you said, Lewis, I thought Crossing Muddy Waters was a highlight and definitely seemed to influence Cover Up the Sun. I thought, and he just does a great job in it. So
yeah, I love the story. Like later, does he say it in this recording, or was it later in podcast where they talk about going in and having their like choice of what to record of John Hyatt's, and Emmy used to play guitar with John Hyatt on some of the albums and stuff, and so they chose to record Crossing Muddy Waters, thinking like, oh, this is a cool song. They'll never use it. Like, we'll do this cover. And then it ends up being like the title track of his album, John Hyatt's album, Crossing Muddy Waters. And Adam's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Busted. Turns out we were digging through the demos.
Yeah.
A couple of other interesting, Poncho and Lefty is really good.
Yeah.
And they picked is it Badfinger? Not Badfinger. Yeah, Badfinger. Bad Time, which I knew because Guns N' Roses used to use that as an intro to Sweet Child of Mine.
Oh,
So
cool.
I was like, that's such an interesting sort of connecting of dots of like bands I listened to a lot of bootlegs of in, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it also goes to show you that Counting Crows could play a bad time followed by good time if they wanted to, right?
They could do Bad Time into Good Time.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think the only other thing to talk about with this show is just, again, like I mentioned before, like we didn't know what we were walking into. Like I didn't know who was going to be there from the band, that it was just going to be Adam and Emmy, that it was going to be covers, not like all of this was a surprise for the first time going to the show. And looking at the Counting Crows show songs that they perform, and this kind of goes across all the Shim Sham shows, I'm kind of surprised that they do Mr. Jones like almost every show, which I always was like, oh, that's interesting. The other one is, Goodnight Elizabeth has the great line about New Orleans, so you love seeing him always sort of include that one. And I remember specifically this first one being like, oh, that's a sweet way to, not close out the show. I don't know. Do they close
It's
with
closer.
it?
It's closer.
Yeah.
The sing along is really good on that too. Like everyone, it's like you can hear the crowd singing, and it sounds great.
I think we knew that we had just seen something really cool, and that was the last song, and it just felt like a very fitting way and again, it's an acoustic show, but it's not acoustic. It's not like a Precious acoustic show. This isn't Storytellers. This is more like a bar show. I remember walking away from that being like, wow, we just witnessed something
cool. We're still talking about it 20 years later.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to a 1. This one had the lowest percentage, I believe, of Crows songs, and partly because the covers they did not end up on Underwater Sunshine. So the Crows, most of them, some did. The Crows songs, Catapult, I'm Counting, Ooh La La, Horse Dreamers, Rain King, Goodnight LA, Goodnight Elizabeth. So they have the 2 good nights, Long December, and Ballad of El Gudo, which I love. And the cover is a couple big stars, a couple Ryan Adams, I think, multiple Oasis, multiple Robin Hitchcocks. Well, by the way, another Horse Dreamers now has been in each of the 3, and it got me thinking. I have a feeling that's the kind of song that they might never play again live, even if they bring back some old rarities. I just have a feeling that's gone forever, so it was worth listening to that. Chris and Lewis, your comments.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, so this one, did you kind of know it was coming, or like
what? So to set this one up, I know this one's coming. I'm going back. Again, I believe Lisa from Anna Begins was at this show. So clearly we probably had communicated and lined up to meet up, and I was going to record. And I had a friend with another mini disc recorder. And so I came down with 2 mini disc recorders. And this is the one where, like, again, for 2000, I asked Adam, hey, can I tape? And he was like, I'm not sure. And then later he sent word that it was okay. And then later he sent word, hey, can I have a copy? This one was more like, I don't know, like it felt like I was meant to be there to record, and he was expecting me to be there to record. And so we lined it up, and I plugged one of the mini disc recorders into the board. And then I sat in the balcony for this one, which was closed off to the fans. I sat in the balcony with my other recorder and the microphone. So I had 2 recordings going for this one. And right before the show starts, I was actually, their quote green room was up in this balcony. I remember as a cool story, like, again, this is the one where I had a little bit more exposure to Adam and Emmy and all of that. And I remember walking through their green room to get something for recording, and Adam was doing like his vocal warm-ups, and so it's like, yes, these are like ramshackle bar shows, drunken covers, but like Adam is still protecting his voice, protecting his vocal cords, and taking it serious. And he was back there doing his vocal warm-ups. And he comes up and he goes, hey, by the way, I'm going to be playing these 2 new songs. I don't want to record these. Like, let's not record these songs. And I was like, okay, no problem. And I turn around to leave, and I go, wait, how am I going to know which song? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll tell you. And I was like, okay. And so in this recording, he starts playing Goodnight LA, and then you hear him say, Lewis, turn the fucking tape recorder off. Well, in full disclosure, I'm manning the one with the microphone up in the balcony, and I clicked it off like he told me to. But the one that's plugged in the board, I'm not near it. Like the board's down on the floor level in the back, and that thing just kept recording. And I don't know where those tapes are.
Oh, because I was gonna wonder is the board tape, because it sounds more like a board tape, but you don't know.
I can't remember. And I wish I could give you guys, I don't remember if the board tape is the one that's in circulation or if it's the audience tape that's in circulation. Or maybe I had the microphone on a stand and I was at the board and I clicked the board off, but the microphone kept running. I don't remember. This one I was drinking, I was kind of like matching Adam in drinking. I don't recall exactly what was happening, but I know one of the versions kept recording and that I then lost those tapes to time. Oh. But anyway, my memory is that he played Goodnight LA, and I believe the other one was Black and Blue, I think.
Okay. Because it's definitely Goodnight. He says Goodnight LA or says something.
Yeah, but definitely Goodnight LA, and I believe it's Black and Blue. For a millisecond, I kind of thought maybe it was Carriage, but I think it's Black and Blue. I'm pretty sure it's Black and Blue.
Okay. This one, I will say, in terms of the selection of covers, is maybe my favorite. Actually, no, this is either number 1 or 2, and I'll get to the second one that I think is. But this is like, in terms of albums that apparently Adam and I have both listened to a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely Maybe, and Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Like the fact, and this is. So I talked about this show, but I was been a very big Ryan Adams fan. So they play Winding Wheel, which is great. But he plays Come Pick Me Up, and the version of Come Pick Me Up, where Adam describes why the lyrics are so heartbreaking, is one of my favorite Counting Crows things, where Adam in the verse, because the chorus of Come Pick Me Up, for those who don't know, it is come pick me up, steal my records, screw all my friends, behind my back, we're all full of shit. And Adam's like, imagine what it'd be like if your girl, she went behind your back, and she screwed your friends, and then worst of all, she stole your records. And I'm like, that is so one of my favorite things. Absolutely. One of my absolute favorite Counting Crows things.
I agree. And also this is around the time that Ryan Adams is recording Gold, I believe, in LA. We now know they were hanging out a bunch. Adam's a guest on that album.
They wrote Los Angeles together.
All of Adam, Ryan guest on Hard Candy. And so, yeah, it's fitting again. Like, it's like you go to these shows, you don't know what they're going to play. They play these songs, you enjoy the show, and it's later that you realize, oh, this is why that was played. Oh, went on to become, the alt in Rain King or whatever. Like it was almost like a glimpse into Adam's head and world, and he was road testing some material or road testing, stuff that he was working on with friends or hanging out with, listening to.
Yeah. How was Goodnight LA and Black and Blue? Do you remember? Like, were they good?
They were good. I mean, they were great. I mean, they were, again, I believe they're in the middle of recording Hard Candy, so they were just sort of in their demo form. But I remember, my memory is that they probably fit pretty much like the album. Those are also both, pretty slow, minimal songs and piano-driven songs, and so he had that down pat. I have to say, for some reason, also the Ryan Adams songs stick out. The Oasis songs, I really loved Outside Chance by the Turtles. I love that cover of it. And I believe, is it him or is it Gibbs that's like uses the British accent to intro it? I think it's Adam actually doing that. I remember thinking that was cool. I'm a huge Replacements fan. And I knew the Replacements at the time of this. And when he plays Unsatisfied, I was like, oh man, this is really cool.
That's a great. I'm not as big a Replacements fan. I really like.
Yeah, that was really. I remember that being like a big deal. I remember 13 actually also being a big deal because, we now know Ballad of El Goodo. He's got the studio recording of that, but 13 is like the other big star song that is covered by so many different people, so many different versions, and having a Counting Crows version of that song is also very cool.
Yeah, the Oasis songs they play, Live Forever, which obviously Adam played on piano a lot as intros to Long December, but also Cigarettes and Alcohol and Supersonic. And Supersonic is one of my probably one of my favorite Oasis songs.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I listened to this like 2 days after I saw Oasis, like a couple weeks ago. So I was very in the mood, and I was like, this is
cool.
Tremendous.
Cool.
The other
I
thing,
also remember the Robin Hitchcock Flesh Number One song being like really interesting. And I remember, again, this is before iTunes. And so I remember like looking for that song in like record stores or CD stores and like not being able to find it in Mississippi. I mean, imagine that. You can't find Robin Hitchcock.
yeah,
Again, like
think
so
in
much,
Memphis or something, or like in one of the big cities or Oxford or something, you could find.
yeah, totally. Yeah. And yeah, or in New Orleans, but yeah, not where I went to school at the time. But yeah, it's a great show. Like I said, this was the one where I've got two different recordings going. I don't know what happened to one of the tapes. This is the one where the photo, I think I said like the photo of me with Gibbs and Adam and Emmy backstage after the show. And again, like this was kind of the time when like Adam used to say like he hated photos of himself or he didn't like fans. And I was just like, I'm like, I need a photo from this moment. So I still have it. And that's us backstage, I believe, after the show.
But at that point, you had already sent him the tapes from the prior. You were not just some random fan. You helped him memorialize Shim Sham.
I'd like to think so. I don't know. Perhaps he would say that. I'm not sure. This is for the viewers. I know this is a podcast, but for the viewers, this is Adam mixing his margarita. I think he's talked about this in interviews before, where Morgan had like set up a bar because they couldn't get drinks up there because it was so crowded. So they were just like, here's how you make a margarita. So that is Emmy playing a song and Adam making himself a drink. I think maybe that's Gibbs might be singing during that. I also showed this photo. This is Adam Duritz on an acoustic guitar, which I don't think anyone's ever seen before. I don't actually think he's playing the guitar, but he is talking about how he wrote the solo in Long December and told Dan exactly how to play it. And he's like doing it with his mouth while holding that guitar.
He is, in Long December on this show, I have the note that he says, this is the best line I ever wrote before the all at once you look across a crowded room and see the way that light attaches to a girl, which obviously the man's written a lot of great lines. I'm not inclined to disagree with him on that one. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah. By the way, check this out. I didn't even know this. There's another saxophone player in 2001. I forgot about that. This is the saxophone player, if my memory serves me correctly, from the band Galactic.
Okay.
So funny enough, talking about these like late night Jazzfest excursions, I went down for this show ahead of time. Again, like I'd lined it up to go and record, and I remember I went to New Orleans for like 3 or 4 days. I went to some shows, and there was this one night I went to. This is a pretty good story. I went to see Van Morrison and BB King opened, and it was kind of an early show. It was like a 7 p.m. show, and BB King. I'm a huge Van Morrison fan. BB King was great. Van Morrison was absolutely terrible. He walked out to sound problems that he was pissed about and never could get over and couldn't get the show back on track. But whatever, I went to it. And then I'd heard of a show at Tipitina's late night with this band Galactic, which I was aware of Galactic. I knew they were kind of a jam band, not my style, but I think I'd heard Adam talk about them. And I was like, I'm going to go check out Galactic the night before the Shim Sham show. I go there. There are people everywhere waiting to get into the show. And there's a band playing. They used to do these shows where they would have early shows, late shows, what have you. And this is at Tipitina's. And I get there and I'm like, can I get a ticket to Galactic? And they're like, no, man, this has been sold out. Like, you're not getting in. I'm like, really? Okay. I walk around the corner and there's this like loading van pulling gear out. And I go up to the like lead roadie guy and I'm like, hey, any chance I could help you like unload your gear and stuff and get into the show? Like, I'm just trying to see Galactic. And he's like, he looks at me. I'm wearing like probably like a button up and some jeans or something and like Birkenstocks. And he just goes, not dressed like that. I was like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I run down the street to this house I'm staying in, change clothes into like shorts and a t-shirt. I come back and I spent the evening unloading the gear out of this van. And as I'm unloading stuff, he looks at me and he goes, "By the way," because we're like moving something quite large, like a big case or a piano or something. And he's like, "Don't touch the car." And he points to this Rolls Royce that's parked there. And I just go, "Whose car is this?" Because it was kind of like in the way.
Yeah.
And he just looks at me and like rolls his eyes. And I look at the license plate and it says Dr. John. It's like a personalized license plate and it says Dr. John. And suddenly I realize playing inside Tipitina's is Dr. John, which is like a New Orleans legend. I mean, just I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I've been unloading this van, listening to this music, and I didn't know Dr. John was in there playing. We get done. We load up the stage. I mean, I think I even like set up like risers at Tipitina's. I was like on stage, like setting up gear. And at the end, they're like, beer and pizza in the back, help yourself. I go back. Galactic comes on at 2 a.m. I am exhausted at this stage. The band starts playing and I'm in the balcony, like eating a pizza, having a beer. And I look down and I see Adam in his dreads and Emmy in his big ponytail. And they are like in the center of this crowd, just giving it. And I think Galactic went till 5 a.m. And Adam then talks about it the next night at the show. He's like, "We were out late last night." I'm like, "Yeah, so was I."
That's funny. Well, thanks for that personal take. I had notes about the covers, but they're basically what all of you have already said about, and I don't know, Ryan Adams and Adam, partly because of the generation and everything. They're definitely built of similar cloth, or right. There's something going on that connects them, and of course with Big Star too. And I'm glad you mentioned the first. Is it the first or second song, "The Flesh Number One"?
Yeah.
Look, I actually, out of all of the songs that I was not familiar with when listening to these 5 years, that's the one that I kind of wanted to hear come back. That's the one that I said, boy, it'd be neat if they played this again. They hadn't recorded this one. Okay, but so I'll embarrass myself about one thing that Adam and other music fans would think I shouldn't have a podcast. I did because of when I grew up. I had no idea that "Come On Feel the Noise" was a cover from the Slade song. That I thought Quiet Riot did the original, because that was the first metal song I ever heard. I was 6 years old, and this guy was kind of pseudo babysitting me, like was babysitting me, but shouldn't have been. Like he was like 9 and I was 6, and he's like, "Listen to this, Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot," and I had never heard anything like it. I was 6 years old, and I just assumed it sounds very glam metally, and I just thought, geez, this sounds like original. And then I found out later this was.
I bet that's the version Adam first heard as well.
So, but anyway, they're both great. So, okay, let's move to O2.
Before
please,
we should
sorry.
mention the Goodnight Elizabeth here.
Yeah.
Both has a bunch of horn, which is really beautiful, and a Thunder Road alt, which is also so that one. If you're a Goodnight Elizabeth fan, that would be one I would grow to, because the horn on Elizabeth is heartbreakingly beautiful.
And yeah. Chris, he does a "Live Forever" intro, something along December. He does that still? No, I've heard that before, though, right?
He's done it. He did it a bunch around this time. He did "Live Forever" as an intro to Long December.
You've had me listen to so many old catalog live shows that they're all blending together. Okay, great. No, thank you. So now you got O3, which is a really or O2, sorry, which is very interesting. This would have been Lewis's last of his trilogy, and I would say the thing that sticks out the most here is that almost all of the covers either got recorded during that Hard Candy time or for Underwater Sunshine, or both. Some of these got recorded for both. So I have that out of the 20 song or whatever, that 80% of them, you'll recognize. Blues Run the Game, Yellow Taxi, Start Again, Have You Seen Me Lately acoustic, Four White Stallions, and a Begin acoustic, Someday I Will Treat You Good, You Ain't Going Nowhere, Amy, Richard Manuel, Carriage, Mercy, Wise Blood, Rain King, Grievous Angel, and Ooh La La. So
yeah, there's only 3 songs in here that we don't have studio versions of.
Yeah. At the point of my notes, there's just notes just like, oh, they're playing the covers album.
Yeah.
Because for those, I mean, we talked, I think, a little bit about this with Hard Candy when we were talking about that album. They recorded a lot of covers around this time. They ended up, most of them, they were thinking about doing a covers album. They decided not to do that. Most of them ended up being B-sides to the various UK singles and things like that. And again, a lot of them ended up being recorded for Underwater Sunshine. And weirdly, then it's like this is the most normal of the shows. With Lewis, was it actually like the whole band, like the entire group, or was it a subset? Or
so to set this show up, this one's just so different because the whole band is in town to play Jazzfest at the fairgrounds. I went to it. It was a great, fun show, good show. It just, even though it's a Devil and the Bunny Shim Sham show, it's the full band with their crew, and their manager Tom is there. It was a Counting Crows show, and it felt like a Counting Crows production. And these guys have a job to do. These guys that work for the band have a job to do, and I just remember this being a very stressful night recording. I was having technical difficulties. I believe in this recording, don't some of these songs like cut out? Like I don't know what
weird stuff happening.
Yeah, it was like I was plugged into the board, and something, because of there being so many, band members and instruments on stage, there was some kind of like something in the feed that was causing my mini disc recorder to shut off. And I just remember being very stressed out. I remember their manager Tom and some of their roadie members being very nice, but they have a job. Their job is to protect the band, make sure the band is set up, taken care of, gears not stolen. Like there's a lot going on, and this just felt like a very different night than the previous two nights of Shim Sham. Yeah.
It also sounds like, it's a really small club again for it's a 7-piece band. Anytime I've seen them be in like truly tiny clubs, it's been a subset of the band. So it feels.
Yeah. And they had a piano clearly at this club, but like they brought in, Charlie's Hammond organ, and like they brought in probably, a handful of Emmy's guitar. Like it wasn't just Emmy carrying his acoustic in. Like there were a lot of, or Dan's guitars. Like there were a lot of guitars. Like it was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of moving parts to this night. And yeah, like they were clearly recording a covers album at the time, and so they had these songs sort of in their making of it, and they were just road testing them, and it was fun. It was great. And I think the song for me that really stands out here is the Sparkle Horse song. Like, I love Sparkle Horse. I loved them at the time. I knew that song, and I remember hearing them cover that. And there is a studio B-side of that available out online that is, I think, just one of Adam's best covers. I remember really loving that. Trying to think what else.
One thing that stood out to me, Chris and Lewis, is that the version of Big Yellow Taxi, which of course this was way before the single or even the recording, the hip hoppy, recording of it, without Vanessa Carlton, is that it sounds like they play it now. So it seems like the actual original, like I always thought that because he had talked about how he wanted it to have like a hip hop beat. So I always assumed that was the original. They did that right away. And then they decided to do this acoustic version later. And the only thing kind of missing, oh no, was Matt Malley at this one, Lewis? Yeah, he was, would he have been there? I think.
Yeah.
It didn't have Matt's bass, that he brought that in a lot later. I mean, I don't think it had the bass solo, if I remember correctly. But anyway, that kind of and it didn't have the maracas, right? that price in place. But hey, is this the first one of the shows that had Anna Begins with Andre Carter? Because that was a treat.
So. Yes,
that was great.
That was
And
he later, like a little messy, but very cool.
Yeah, one of the other Counting Crows. There's only, let me make sure I'm correct on this. I believe there's only 2 other tapes. No, that's not correct. There's 4 other tapes. There's 4 other tapes in circulation that I recorded outside of Shim Sham. And one of them was at my college in Starkville from October 25th, 2000. And Curtis Watson comes out and plays trumpet in that show as well on Anna Begins, which is really great. The other 3 shows that I recorded was I did the Atlanta, Georgia Tabernacle show in 99. And I did the 2 New Orleans House of Blues shows in 2001.
Oh, which we talked about. We actually talked about those on an episode of the podcast because Jeff Harkness, who wrote the book Rain King, was at those shows. We were like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And Jeff was like, oh, I went to these 2 really interesting shows in 2001 at the House of Blues. And so we have deep down. Those are terrific. Those are great.
So those are mine as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The only other comment I had, yeah, thank you for letting me know about the trumpet comes in a couple other live recordings. The end begins. The only other comment I had to do with Carriage. Not that. First of all, I just thought it was very good, and I do like that song. I think even though I had it lower in my hard candy rankings, but there was two things that stood out to me. One was the he shared about which I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to talk about the personal story, and he did. And one thing is he kind of had for something as serious as this, he kind of had a funny one-liner at the end, which was talking about, which I had never thought about yet, the woman who was an ex-girlfriend, I think he also, this is kind of gossipy, but he admitted that this situation happened after they broke up. Like they broke up and they got kind of back together, as he says, as happens sometimes when you're used to each other, physically or whatever. You might get back together a couple times, and that's when the happened, and then miscarriage. And he said something about how things could mean different things, and he ended with, "I think I mean something completely terrible to her now." So that was kind of an interesting line because it's not like the miscarriage would be his fault or anything. But you know what's so weird? I don't want to get too deep, but all of a sudden it hit me. We didn't talk about this during Hard Candy. He's gone on record about choosing not to be a father, and for different reasons. Part of it, he was maybe worried about his mental health or passing down mental, where he by this could have very easily been a father, and you wonder how that would have changed. Just because it's almost like the sliding doors moment. How would that have changed his career, his everything, his look on life? We never know, and it's so life is very fickle, right? And very yeah. So anyway, I thought that was kind of deep, but it hit me there more than other times I've heard him talk about that. So okay.
The other couple things I'll just pull out here. I'm with you. Carriage. I thought Carriage was really great. And it begins. It's a really good Rain King with a round here alt. So if you're into that, and again, yeah, this is one. It's and this has a really nice version of Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain too. If you like that, this is a better recording than the '99 one. But yeah, this one feels weird listening back to. I'm sure I really loved it originally because again, all this stuff wasn't really out now. But like listening back to it, I was just kind of like, it's less surprising as a re-listen. We've heard it.
You now heard it. I mean, I remember at the time being like, "This is so cool that I'm hearing a bunch of covers, full band." But again, it was just my recording was messing up, and my memory, my personal just sort of experience with this show was one that was pretty stressful. I will say, starting the show with Blues Run the Game, I remember really liking that and not knowing that song at the time, and at the time thinking, oh, well, this is like another one of those acoustic songs that they'll do for Shim Sham and then you'll never hear again. And instead it became like such a staple in the Counting Crows, live show.
And it's funny you said that because when I just saw them play that at the casino, you're so right. And every time they do it, though, 99% of the audience thinks it's a complete rarity.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not a single. It's not on the... is Blues on the Game on Underwater? No. I think it was recorded with the Hard Candy stuff. I think it's a B-side to one of those Hard Candy singles. But anyway, I just laugh about that, Louis, because you're right. Like they have perfected it so well now, and I almost thought Emmy plays it better than ever. But
I agree. Emmy really gives it these days. Like he's changed it so much. But at the time, I just thought, oh, this is another Shim Sham kind of rarity. And anyway, cool how that kind of stuff goes on.
All right, so that leads us to the final Shim Sham show, which was 2003. Yeah, and I think this is one of them, right? That they had, where Adam took a seat for some of the songs, right? I know that happened on a couple shows. This seemed to be about 50-50 of Crow songs and covers. I'll just, again, quickly mention the Crow songs, Catapult, Goodnight Elizabeth, New Frontier, which I'll say right now I thought was a highlight. Even though he didn't sing it, I'm mentioning Barely Out of Tuesday, because that is a Crow song. Friend of the Devil, which I don't know if that was one of the first debuts of this. I'm not sure. Good Night.
I think it would have been.
Yeah. Good Night LA, Long December Again, which again, Louis, I'm with you. I'm almost surprised they play any hits at all during these shows. Good Time, Amy, Rain King, Blues Run the Game Again, Girl from North Country, and ending with Sullivan Street as a nice tribute to us 20 years before we started. So,
thanks, guys.
Comments. Then the covers are kind of all over the place.
This is a wild group of covers.
This two Madonna ones, right?
And then, which I really love. Adam singing Madonna songs. And I really like both of these songs too. If I'm picking Madonna songs, Borderline and Crazy for You, I think are both great. I think I probably like the Madonna version of Crazy for You better than Borderline. But man, it's so weird. But Adam like crushes both of them.
Yeah.
This one's got like just
doesn't it call back to like when people are like, "Oh, I'm surprised he's playing Taylor Swift," and the first thing I thought of is he played Madonna, and actually, at least the one kind of sounds like a Crow's. I mean, I know part of because of the piano, but the lyrics sound very Adam for the one, I think, and where these lyrics don't necessarily sound Adam, but they're pop, good, well-crafted pop songs that he covered.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie is definitely on piano on this. I don't know if it's like how much of the band is on it, but it's definitely Charlie. And it's funny because I was, you're a big, Eric's a big Charlie fan.
Yes.
And I was just hitting me. It's like, oh, the piano is really good. And I was like, this has got to be Charlie, right? And then Adam goes like, play something, Charlie. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's how like definitive like Charlie is to the sound is you can just hear someone playing piano on covers and you're like, oh, that's got to be Charlie.
Oh, yeah, and even I did not know that O2 was the whole band when I was listening quickly first time, and when I heard Have You Seen Me Lately, I go, whoever's playing the piano there is incredible.
They know the song.
Yeah.
I will say this about O3, I was not there, and I remember later either seeing the set list or getting a recording of this and being like, well, fuck, that wasn't the 2002 show. This is like 50 songs, 3 hours. I'm like, God damn it, I wasn't there. Like I was pissed that I missed this one. It's pretty good. I mean, I kind of love. I really love the America cover, and I really love the Bob Seger cover. Like,
yes.
I'm kind of a sucker for Adam's love of like California '70s, like top 40 radio music, and I think that including both of those is really awesome on this show.
Speaking of that, of California '70s top 40. Their version of These Days by Jackson Browne is beautiful. I love that song. There's a really crazy, that is a Bob Saget tribute thing on Netflix where he does that song with John Mayer, and it's amazing. But Adam really crushes that song. I was like, I'd forgotten because I'm sure I heard that song and I just hadn't thought about it, and I've become a fan of that song since then. And I was like, oh man, this is really beautiful.
I mean, I also remember hearing better things by the Kinks and knowing, like, I was a fan of the Kinks. I know the Kinks. Somehow I didn't know that song. And I'm like, God, this is like the best Kinks song there. And there's a lot of good Kinks songs. And I was like, oh, they, of course, leave it to these guys to like find the best one,
So it's worth, I mean, this is the one I maybe have the most unique notes. Not that I have that many, but I guess we have to go back to Barely Out of Tuesday because this is a song that they played. I don't even have to look back. I'm guessing like 10 times or something in their life, right?
97.
Yeah, and if they ever did it, it's like a couple of full ones, and then it's around here a bunch that year.
Yeah, and co-written, I guess the legend is by Courtney Cox, right? And about so he refuses to play it either because he doesn't think it's good enough, or because Courtney was involved, or both. And then he allows the song to be covered by somebody else while he's there, right? Because David
and rewritten though, because Gibbs rewrites it. I mean, it's not
okay.
It's not this. It's the same song, like melodically, but a bunch of the lyrics are different.
I see.
Doesn't Gibbs talk in this show? He like mentions Courtney Cox by name. Doesn't he say he's like?
I think so.
Adam won't play this song, but I'll play it. Like he says something like that, doesn't he?
I mean, it's legendary. It's crazy. That's one of the.
I couldn't, maybe there's the tape I had. I didn't hear him say it. I know he said there's something where he talked about that, where he tells that whole story of like, yeah, basically like Adam won't play this song, so he lets me do it because I really like it, and I just,
yeah.
This is,
I mean, good on Adam for passing it on.
Oh yeah, I thought that was so cool, and I mean, it almost sums up the legendariness of the Shim Sham shows. I thought, that particular song. I thought a treat because I actually kind of like the song and I like this version was the acoustic New Frontier, and it reminded me of the acoustic American Girls, which because I said it, and it also reminds me partly because they don't have the. I don't know, the reach that they did in the 90s, that they don't reinterpret because they don't play enough of their regular versions of the newer songs, let alone reinterpret them. But it got me thinking that so many of their songs they have such the skill to reinterpret them. And yeah. So anyway, I thought New Frontier was great with the piano. And as you said, it was Charlie.
In terms of versions of songs, this version of Good Time, you know how I feel about Good Time, Eric. This swingy version of this is by far the best version of that song I've ever heard. And I'm like, they should bust that arrangement now. But I'm with you, that just playing more. And also, they do Oh Susanna basically a cappella.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, basically, this is the advent of that song, right? And has not gone anywhere in terms of alts over the years for Counting Crows. And it's such a New Orleans, Alabama, New Orleans, Southern folk song. And this is kind of where he first bust that out. Although I have heard him say in a podcast before that the reason why he knows this song or sings this song is that one time he was like maybe after a gig or something in Ireland, and they ended up at one of those Irish bars where everyone's kind of like round table singing songs, and maybe he wasn't with any of his band members or something, and they wanted him to sing a song, but he didn't have any accompaniment of an instrument, and so he decided that was the only song he could sing off the top of his head a cappella, and that's why that is a song that he sings.
I'm not sure I've heard that story. That's awesome. That's interesting.
Yeah.
This was a fun show. I thought Friday I'm in Love was just fun. As you said, Night Moves, which is not one of my favorite songs, the Bob Seger. I like it, but I just thought it was just great. I just enjoyed listening to it. So I'm with you there. Here Comes Your Man. Was that one of them too? I thought that was
so good.
That was fun. And even the good song. You know what? One thing that's kind of interesting when we talked about the covers in Underwater Sunshine is that the two of the covers on here, Borderline and Girl from North Country, are only released as iTunes exclusive. So it's for Underwater. So they were recorded for Underwater Sunshine. Because the reason I know is because I love the version of Girl from North Country.
Weren't the iTunes versions live, or am I missing
if the Borderline is live, it's definitely they played this once or twice as a full band, and I think because I recall they put up a version of it on I think countingcrows.com or something, but I think that was from I want to say they played it in like London that year, like a month later or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But like once, and again, like just total rarities.
You might be right about the Girl from North Country. Yeah, Borderline I don't think is. I'd have to re-listen to
I think
both.
You're right. I mean, I also have to say that, like, again, I give Adam and Emmy credit here. I mean, their interpretation of Girl from North Country, I think, is just really interesting. It's not a straightforward cover. And the way that that Emmy, interprets that guitar bit is really great.
The only thing, shame, is that, like, I think, you know what? Both of those songs should have been on the Underwater Sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
Borderline, because it's a Madonna song and it would stick out compared to the other selections they chose. And Girl from North Country, I think you could have made the case that would have been the best song on the album, possibly. So I don't know why they left those out.
I really love the way Adam works with the melody of Borderline. I think it's I mean, again, I think not an unpopular opinion in this group to say Adam is sort of a genius as a singer, but that one in particular is great. A couple of like stray things from this one. During Goodnight Elizabeth, he sings, "I was wasted in the evening." He's like, "And that's the truth," which is great. And there's some amazing Andre Carter trumpet on Goodnight LA. Also, for you Springsteen fans, they do a bit of Sandy in Sullivan Street, which is really kind of cool.
That's what I was going to actually ask about that. I had that as a question for you. I didn't. Yeah, because I'm not a huge
Bruce Springsteen song called Sandy / it's like or parentheses 4th of July Asbury Park or something.
Yeah, which is also like a 14-minute song. So like, good on Adam for just cutting it down.
Yeah, that's it worked. His version, the cut down version. This one is just one of those ones where it's like all over the place, but there's so much. This is a really interesting show. There's a lot of interesting stuff.
The Cure, Friday I'm in Love, like that's so cool.
It's fun, yeah. The one thing I think about that song is, out of all these, I don't think he did. I think Adam should have recorded that when he did his Valentine's solo album. Like, I was like, "Oh, Friday I'm in Love come on, it was so good," and it was, it gives loves and Valentines, because what's it called? My Bloody Valentine, right?
My Bloody Valentines, yeah.
The only other thing to help the fans, because I had to remember, because I'm out of it, and I wasn't as hardcore back at this time. That David Gibbs, I guess it goes that lead singer of the Gigolo Ants, and they were signed to Adam's label at one point, right? I don't think for their entire career,
but at least one of the albums came out on
yeah. E
whatever the
Pluribus
E
Unum,
Pluribus
Pluribus.
Unum.
yeah. And I think they might have had. Did they have other connections besides? Like I know they toured together, right? I didn't know.
I think he lived at Adam's house. I think that was one of the other main.
I think, well, again, and Freeloader. So Gibbs, I think, is one of the co-writers of that movie, because it's basically his story. And then there's some stray. I think it's 2008. When we get to those that year, we should probably cover this show. But there's a really interesting Adam with Dave Gibbs and one other guy, Chris Stills, maybe. I don't. But like where it's Baltimore, where it's one of the few shows ever that's billed as like Adam Duritz and Friends. And that is a fascinating show as well. That will.
It feels very like Shim Sham adjacent. Like it's basically a Shim Sham show.
Right. It's a version of that. I think he popped up with Gibbs once or twice, like at Gibbs's shows too. Like there's a couple of.
Well, they also had that band Low Stars and Adam guest on it. So there's studio recordings of Low Stars, which was Gibbs and the other guy from that show. I believe you're right, Chris Stills and Adam guest on it. Yeah.
Oh, so Chris Seafried. Chris Seafried.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. Chris Stills is a person as well. It was the son of Stephen Stills, but
that's right.
Yeah, it's so weird. Again, something I said in the first minute, which was that when you're young, right, how time moves different. When I say young, I'm not even talking about being a little kid. I'm talking about in your 20s and 30s. That you'll be like, oh, that was 3 years ago. And now you're like, oh, 3 years ago just happened. Like, no, it didn't. Or 4 years ago just happened. No, your kid was in middle school then. Now they're, almost going to college. And I say that because, even though it seemed like I missed it by a mile, that, as I said, the Shim Sham was 99-03. And then I was able to go in 04, but they had stopped doing them. And then the very next year, Katrina hit. So you don't know how that would have affected, or if that would have, that happened to 05. And even though it was years later, I think that even about some of the crows in, Across the Wire, that September 11th was just 4 years after they recorded that. And that might seem, wow, it was 4 big years, but 4 years is pretty short. So, yeah, anyway.
I'll say this funny side note as well about these shows and about this time period with Counting Crows. I go down and start recording the 2001, 2002. I graduate from college in 2002. I'm now sort of like weirdly associated, at least like with my friends, as a Counting Crows guy. Like I've just recorded them in New Orleans and I listen to them and they're like, we listen to my friends listen to a lot of other music. I mean, in the 90s, like bands like Pavement and Dinosaur Jr. and stuff like that. Anyway, I was the Counting Crows guy. And I was starting to sort of spread my wings musically and like listen to other stuff. And again, I give these shows a lot of credit to that. Like I really wanted to discover new music, and I leave college and I'm thinking about where to move to. And a friend of mine's like, hey, why don't you come check out New York? And I'm like, all right. So I go up to New York in 2002. And the week I'm there, it gets announced that Counting Crows are going to be playing at Battery Park and at Irving Plaza. And I think also maybe like the morning show, one of those morning shows or whatever they are. So I go to the Battery Park. It's like a day free show. I go down by myself and I'm like thinking about like, I think I'm going to move to New York. And I'm standing there at Battery Park watching the show. And after like the third song, Adam's like, so I'm moving to New York. And the whole crowd goes crazy. And I'm just in the back and I'm like, God damn it. All my friends are going to think, yeah, anyway. And I'm like, I'm moving to New York. You're stealing my thunder, man. Anyway.
Louis, I mentioned it, I think, on the very first podcast, but that I'll never forget to this day, especially because I'm doing a podcast about them, that he had met, he was hanging out with college students after one of the shows. And that one, I actually went and, gosh, I might have been only standing like 4 spots away from him. And there was just like 10 people talking to him. And I guess I didn't know what to say. I mean, I asked him one thing about the show, but he was mainly focusing on other people. And then I was like, what can I say that could be interesting? You're racing through real quick and like, oh, I know they're moving. He just moved to New York, and none of these other people know that. They're just casual. So that's when I said, like, oh, I heard. I guess you're officially a New Yorker now. And he just looked at me and like rolled his eyes and said, I'm not officially anything.
Don't label me, man. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I've met Adam a handful of times since these Shim Sham shows. I've seen him at his Underwater Sunshine Festival at Bowery Electric, and like I said, I was at this McKittrick Hotel show, and the whole band was there afterwards. Like, it was the smallest show I've ever seen. I don't know what to say to the guy. Like, I sound like him talking about Springsteen. It's not that, like, I mean, I am a big fan, but I'm not like taken by Adam in a way. I just don't like. I have gone up to him and been like, "Hey, I'm Lewis. I'm the guy from the Shim Sham shows," and he's like, "Oh yeah, you looked familiar. I thought so." And he's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good." And then we're both kind of like, "Have a great night." Like, looking forward to the show. Like, I don't know. There's just nothing. And you see him in his later career, like really taking fans and other musicians and people under his wings and putting them out on the road with him. And I just think it's wonderful and great. But I'm always just kind of like, I got nothing to say to this guy.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? It's
Yeah,
like if some random person came to your work, they might say, "Oh, I recognize you from this." But one thing, I guess we could sort of end like this. It sounds like the Shim Sham kind of drove you into being a super fan in a way. What was that? How did one thing we didn't ask you, which we've asked everybody else? How did you originally get into the Crows? When did you start to like them?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was in the '90s. It was August and everything after. Again, I was a huge music fan even back then, and I listened to, again, when you're growing up in Mississippi before the internet, to me, all this stuff just was the same. Like, I could go from Dinosaur Jr. to the Counting Crows to, we used to listen to like math rock bands like Don Caballero and these other bands kind of like that. To me, it was all the same. It wasn't until later when I went to college that things started getting placed in like the acoustic rock or the college rock or the, back then, I mean, I was a big Grantley Buffalo fan. Like, we were big fans of that band. Obviously REM, stuff like that. And uh, I'm sure it was like probably the Mr. Jones music video. And I remember being like, that's good. But then I got into tape trading, and really my fandom of Counting Crows was some of those early sort of '94 tapes. I remember specifically like '94, there just being like a lot of cassette tapes that I mean, I used to do like, I'm going to date myself, but like B&Ps, like where you would send out the blank tape and return postage. Like, I used to do all that stuff with Counting Crows. And there's this one show from '94. I have to look it up. I remember specifically as a child, like being like 14 and having this May '94 show from LA. And then like half the show or more than half the show is like very acoustic and very slow. I think it was, yeah, May 22nd. May 22nd, '94. That was like an early bootleg that I had of theirs. And I was like, I like this band. There's a great Rain King in there. He does, in Mr. Jones, he says, I want to be Peter Stewart. Like, it's that time period. And that's kind of that. Some of those early tapes was really where I became a pretty big fan.
Well, Lewis, thank you for your. And I was trying to find the original. I have 20 emails from you. I think you first wrote me, because we were setting this up. I think you first wrote me about a year and a half ago. I'm glad we could get you on. And for some reason, I
Hammering
can't.
you for a guest spot.
Yeah, and I can't. Well, I can't find the original you sent me, but I am pretty sure, unless I'm busy and missed it or something, that you explained, a bit. Oh, I went to 3 of the shows. I'm a big fan. You guys should talk about this, which we all agreed with. I don't think you told me in that original email that, by the way, if you've listened to Shim Sham, that's me. That I was the one that recorded it, because I'm telling you, because Chris, I even sent you one. I mean, I know, because I wasn't into the trading. I've talked about that a number of times, but there's a lot of people that had those CDs based upon your recording. So thousands, I got to imagine.
I'm glad they're out there, and I'm glad Adam, okayed it in 2000.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a real contribution to the history of the band. We get to do this 20 years later because you taped the shows. Otherwise, it would just be some weird stories, and we would not have had nearly as fun a hour and a half talking about this.
I agree, and again, I think tape trading. I'm a big proponent of it as a way of spreading music and learning about music. And again, Adam's just done such a great job throughout his career promoting all kinds of different types of music. And so again, him playing these shows and allowing them to be taped is just more part of his personality and what he gives to his fans.
And he was we haven't really talked about that much, but he was famous for that back then, right? Because I would even read articles that weren't written for Crows fans, and they would kind of say, "Oh, Counting Crows are one of the few bands that are like, okay, record and trade tapes and whatever you want to do."
Yep. Yeah, there were a handful. There were a bunch of them, and I think sometimes that's why they get lumped in with some of those bands from the '90s, even though they don't play together or they don't really cross paths. Obviously, Dave Matthews being like one of the ones you hear them people talking about, but like Counting Crows and Dave Matthews have never intersected, other than they were just bands of the '90s, and they both allowed tape trading and that kind of thing.
No, I mentioned that because I said that what they have in common is that you had a very good chance of hearing both of their songs at some outdoor frat party. But besides in the '90s, but besides that, they didn't. They never really crossed paths too much. Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's is that a wrap up, Chris? I think we are.
I think we covered it. Go listen to these shows.
Almost
thank
2 hours.
You guys for having me on, by the way, and thank you guys for taking the time to create this fan podcast of the band. It's great to listen to, and some of your exposure to your different guests and stuff. It's great as a fan to listen to. So thank you guys.
No, thank you. And if any of you out there have a the show idea, which Louis did, we were going to cover it sometime, but I think it sped up the process. So you can contact us at Sullivan Street PC. That's written out Sullivan Street, STREET, PC for podcast at protonmail.com. And besides that, thank you for listening, and see you next episode down here on Sullivan Street. Thank you so much.